Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, where we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights of this incarnation of the series. Today's episode is The End of the World, and it aired on April 2nd, 2005. It is written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Euros Lyn, produced by Russell, Julie Gardner, Mal Young, Phil Collinson, and Helen Vallis. The overnight figures for The End of the World was that it was watched by 7.3 million viewers in the UK. I don't know, was it less than last time?
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Okay, good.
A lot of people showed up for the pilot. It's still respectable, but...
Yes. Also worth noting of this episode that it begins with a cold open, and this is the first time that we see this in the new incarnation of the series, and it's something that is followed throughout the rest of
What do you mean
the
by
series.
cold open?
It starts off with something that is unrelated, not unrelated, but it doesn't start with the main title sequence right away. It starts off with
They're like driving
Teaser.
the ship, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they? They're having trouble driving the ship.
A teaser.
yeah. But yeah, Josh and Brian are both right that it does begin with they're driving the ship, and that is the teaser for the episode, and then the main title kicks in with the credits, and then we get into the show proper. So yeah, today we have Kelsey joining us. She wasn't here last
Hello.
week. Hello.
Hello. Yes, very excited to be here with you guys.
We're excited to have you. Let's hear from you on how you got introduced to Doctor Who.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Kelsey, and I was introduced to Doctor Who when I walked in on my boyfriend, who's now my husband, as he was watching a season 1 episode. But I was already familiar with the original Doctor because my parents would watch Tom Baker, which I now think were probably reruns on PBS because this was in the 90s. And I don't think it was still
Make it
airing.
out of a time machine.
Yeah. And so I watched some
Public-funded time
of the
machine.
episode with my boyfriend, and I was not impressed with the episode because it looked nothing like my childhood memory I had of the Doctor.
Oh, that's a good one.
But he convinced me to give it a couple more tries, and by the 4th episode, I was a fan.
Ah, very cool. To go around again, since there's still a lot of us here, let's start introducing ourselves. Oh,
Yep, my name is Auburn. I'm that boyfriend, now husband. I'll be engineering today's show, so I might not chime in as much, but my introduction for Doctor Who was from our host, Eugene, at a friend's house. He put in the first season DVD, and we watched episode 1, Rose.
Hi, my name is Arlene, and Eugene introduced me to Doctor Who as well with the episode Girl in the Fireplace.
Hey, I'm Josh, and I started watching in 2013 after I ran out of stuff to watch, and I finally got around to it.
Hi, this is Frank, and I started watching the Doctor Who Tom Baker episodes way back with the UHF channel, either 28 or 56,
And static.
and static.
And I'm Brian, and I became a fan of Doctor Who with some David Tennant episodes, and then we jumped back to Eccleston's and never looked back.
same here, Eugene, the moderator here talking. Yeah, the new iteration for me was introduced by my friend Brian, who just spoke, with a Girl in the Fireplace. All right, on to The End of the World. The Doctor takes Rose to the year 5.5/Apple/26, 5 billion years into her future. They land on Platform 1, a space station in orbit around Earth. They have arrived in time for a party celebrating the final destruction of Earth by the expansion of the sun. The Earth has long since been abandoned and has been kept up by a historical trust. The Doctor uses his psychic paper to pass as their invitation to the party, and he and Rose find many elite alien beings there. Some of these guests include Lady Cassandra O'Brien, billed as the last human, but actually is actually a face on a large piece of skin that must be continually moisturized. Also present are the face of Bo, the Mox of Balhoun, the adherents of the repeated meme, and sentient and mobile trees from the forest of Cheam. Rose is overwhelmed by the strange beings and customs, as well as how distant she is from home, leaves an observation. And she leaves to go to an observation room to collect her thoughts.
Now, do you think the Doctor always wanted to take her here? Because at the beginning he asked, okay, anywhere you want to go, past, present.
And she chooses the future. she says
100 years.
Yes.
Yeah, but then he's trying to impress her.
But he says
Yes.
it's boring, right? So it's like she doesn't really have that choice. It's one of those choose again, you're not right, choose again kind of ideas where I don't think anything she picked would have been what he wanted
He
to
does
go.
seem to come up with the idea in the moment, but unless he's just sort of faking
I think he's like a guy impressing a girl with his car. You know, this is what it can do. Oh, you think 100 years is great? How about 5 billion?
Yeah.
I think he's really trying to impress her.
Yeah, like this can go 60 miles per hour. Well, let's go
Exactly,
80
yeah.
miles per
That's
hour.
what
Let's go
I'll-
88 and go back in time.
He's trying to impress her.
I don't think so. I think the first trip you take, you're trying to impress someone, let's take you to where your planet is destroyed, is not the best first traveling. I think he's
I'm not saying he has good judgment. I'm just saying neither does the guy trying to impress a girl with his new car.
I just think he's kind of still really messed up from this war that we talked about in the last episode. And I think
He
even for
does not
subconscious
realize
war-
how it will affect her.
Maybe
right,
that's
but
more,
he is taking her to a place where your planet is
Yes.
being destroyed.
Yes.
maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's not that he's choosing. He didn't have it in his head to begin with, but because he's kind of so screwy right now, he doesn't realize. He doesn't have the social graces to realize don't do that.
Right. Okay.
I actually saw it more like he wanted to take her there because he wanted to scare her from being with him. That
Really?
whole aspect of, I'm scary. This is scary. This is what happens. I want you to see because she's already
Like a trial by fire?
That trial by fire. Like, how much can you take? So I'm going to give you to you all.
Well, because
at once.
Rose does say, "Is it always this dangerous?" And he says, "Yes."
Yeah.
So,
So that's
right.
what I saw
Yeah.
it as.
He also doesn't view it as death because when
Mm-hmm.
they're on the observation platform looking down on Earth, and Rose is saying, everything I know is gone, is dead and buried, and even it's going to be destroyed in a second. He at that point is talking about how human beings have touched every star in the universe. So to him, it's not death. It's you're so worried about
Minutia.
all these things going to kill you, you never stop to think that you actually make it.
And you survive, he says.
Yes, and you survive. He's just telling her this while the planet's blowing up. I can see his point. It's just not it's not the best way he
not-
probably could
yeah.
have described it.
So here, the doctor follows her into the observation room and tries to cheer her up by allowing her to call her mom, Jackie, by altering her mobile phone to be able to work over the distance and time. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool, and it was very
That's the first introduction to that too.
yeah, it's very touching.
But
Well, it's the
I
first,
think she called her mom before the Rose episode
but they were on. They were still in the present time.
In the present.
because she was saying, buy the lottery ticket, and she wasn't working at the store.
Yeah. Wait, was that the same? That was the same.
That was in Rose.
Yeah.
When they were on Earth.
She was on Earth.
But it was she was
So she calls back her mom. Her mom's doing the laundry
yeah, but she was
in this, and just pick up the extra for the lottery tickets. I'll pay you back. It's like
yeah,
it seemed
but
like
her,
it was before.
but her mom was there. Like she
Oh,
called
you're
her.
saying that in Jackie's time frame,
In Jackie's time frame,
Rose is calling her
the
before.
autons haven't happened.
Really? I have to go back and listen to that.
No, I don't
then.
think so. I think because they went back in time before it happened.
I've never
then she called
thought
her.
that was.
Right now, someone who's
I
But
couldn't-
if
With
it is,
everything
that's
that just
great.
with everything that just happened with the autons and everything, it seemed like Jackie would be a little more hysterical about what's going on, Rose, what's wrong, rather than just doing the laundry, buy my lottery tickets, I'll pay you back. I think I can't remember exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Something like, in the pool, get me tickets. So it seemed like it was the store, like right before the episode of Rose.
Right.
It didn't seem like she was calling concurrently.
I think this will need to be rewatched.
I've never
That's
thought.
what I got from watching it this time.
a little
I always wanted to know when it was because she
Yeah.
asked, "What day is it?" And she goes, "What's Wednesday?"
Right.
And it's just like, "Wednesday when?" Tell me.
The year, man, the year.
I think I always just took it as later on that week.
Yeah, I did too. That's
Yeah.
how I always viewed it. But
Yeah.
But-
Initial
But she wasn't
viewing.
going through time. That's the point.
But also, she left with Mickey when it was dark, and she's doing laundry the next day. She did say, "Oh, you hung over, you sleep out," so it could be concurrent. But it just seemed
But
with
it could
everything
totally
that just
be.
happened,
from Jackie's
Jackie.
timeline, it could
But it
be
even
before.
could be future.
That's really cool.
right?
So
Not too far in the future.
but it could be hers still a little bit into the future. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
felt like
I just
it was
thought it was
very
interesting.
ambiguous. Like you couldn't tell the time, that timey, wibey,
Right.
wibbly wobbly kind of
I mean, this
stuff.
is also the daughter who just doesn't calls her mom, doesn't talk, and hangs
giggles.
up, and
And this is
everything's
also
fine. So-
this is also Jackie, who's a bit of a ditz. She's a blonde, so you could chalk it up to that. Oh, where's my daughter? Oh, I don't care.
need
We
lottery
were just
tickets.
attacked by aliens. I don't care.
No, when it comes to her daughter, she gets very bulldog
That's true.
protective. It's like, Rose can go off and do whatever she wants. She's independent, and Jackie likes that. But if you come after her daughter, she's going to definitely
Yeah, she
stand up
should
for
as
her.
a
Which we
mother.
see later.
Nice use of the reference bulldog, British bulldog. Get it, guys? All right. Meanwhile, the gifts. Yes.
We should talk about like the participants, the people who are there.
Oh, the aliens. Yeah.
yeah, because
Okay.
we're getting into this is the first time we see aliens on Doctor Who, and
Yes.
they're kind of
The second episode out, and we have aliens.
Yeah.
Up the wazoo.
It's the first intro of the face of Bo.
yeah, and I love the trees.
The trees are great.
I thought their makeup was great.
When they first come in, I remember thinking like, what is this? But then they pulled it off. Like the woman who played the queen or whatever she was.
Jabe. Jabe is
Yeah,
her
she
name.
was.
She was really well.
She was. The
well
acting
acted.
was really good, and that's kind of how I feel about this episode in particular. We were talking about that last time. That as silly as all the alien people are, the acting always pulls it off. So it kind of grounds it where you're invested in who they are, not just what they look like.
And then they're passing around the gifts, and
Yeah,
the Doctor doesn't have anything, so he
So
gets
it's just
breath from my lungs, and that's like the perfect
that seems
gift.
silly. But then the little guy spits in their faces for his gift.
well,
And
just Rose's
Eccleston
face.
breaks. Do you see that?
No, I didn't. I didn't catch
Yeah,
that.
he's because he spits on Rose.
Right.
And you can just see Eccleston just slightly, it just laughs just a little bit too much.
So it makes me think that the Mox of Balhoun actually spit into Rose Tyler's face.
Maybe.
Method actor.
But yeah, and I mean we're also introduced to Cassandra.
Cassandra, the first
Who's-
time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, when we see the wider shot of the platform 1 from the outside, that's Cassandra's theme comes on. And,
Yes.
And I find it very fitting for this episode. I just thought it was worth pointing out the Murray Gold score there for.
Yeah, he
it's very-
created
Yeah.
a specific, very different
Yes.
piece of music just for Cassandra.
Yeah.
So, and she's, the last human. But in fact, Frank and I were just recently watching a classic Who episode called "The Brain of Morbius," and Morbius is kind of like Cassandra in that. So he's a disembodied brain
In a jar.
in a jar, and he talks, but with these little pieces of skin that vibrate like they're gigantic vocal cords.
Yeah.
But we were just kind of looking at each other going, Cassandra.
I did notice
it
that
was.
on the bottom of Cassandra was a tank with her brain.
Brain-
in
her
it.
brain is
Yes,
down
yes,
there,
I noticed
yeah.
that before.
Yeah.
I always wondered where
Yeah.
the brain was.
Yeah,
Just check it out next time.
There's not enough room.
I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, and again, hopefully this is not your first time watching that reminder. I should really do these up front.
I thought the parade of the aliens was fun. They changed the music.
Yeah.
It was upbeat. It was really, you can see why Rose got so overwhelmed because it just kept coming, and each one was so different, and so out of her realm that she just got overwhelmed, had to leave.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to get out of this. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I liked how she got over a couple times just the enormity of everything that was happening. It wasn't just an adventure. She had a moment to actually think about the
Yeah.
situation.
And she kept freaking out.
She's
and,
19 years old. We always kind of forget
right.
that, she doesn't have a life experience to kind of.
So when I first watched this episode, like I mentioned to all of you last week, that I really disliked it. Did not like it at all. Thought it was too weird. Felt like the storyline was not connecting at all. And when I watched it this time, I realized, I understand why I don't like it. Because I was introduced to Doctor Who with something more realistic, something more of the past, of human-like. So I was experiencing the same thing that Rose felt at the time. This is too weird. This is too much. I'm not buying into this episode. I don't want this.
Yes,
and I was
you're
like,
Rose.
I felt the same way she did. And I, of course, is rejecting it, didn't like it. And then now that I'm into Doctor Who, it felt like any other episode. So I was like, it just
didn't
seemed
bother you
normal.
at all when you
It
watched
didn't
it.
bother me this time. I was like, it's a good episode. I enjoyed it.
And from a producer standpoint, it's a great thing that they did where they had the pilot on Earth, contemporary time, tells an adventure in modern day. The next episode goes far into the
yeah.
future to show We can be science fiction-y. We can have tons of special effects, although they never had as many special effects ever again.
Well, speaking of that, this episode contains 203 visual effect shots that were completed over 8 weeks, compared to about 100 in the film Gladiator.
Yeah, and I read where as of the Wedding of River Song, there still hasn't been an episode
Yes.
that comes close
Absolutely,
with effects.
They were pretty good too.
Yeah, the space station and the outer space stuff with the Earth is really
Just
good.
all the little robot spiders
Yeah.
and everything, they all
not bad.
work pretty
Yeah,
well.
not-
Yeah,
yeah.
they look pretty like I did notice a few things watching it earlier, on the larger television in HD now. But even though that wasn't shot in HD, you could see some of the compositing. But overall,
Yeah.
if you need a new prescription, it would look great.
Yeah, so they're telling a really good science fiction outer space story, and then the next episode they go back in time, so they show
Right.
history.
Yeah.
And so they're
good point. I
in
didn't
3
even think of
episodes they're showing the entire.
What we can do.
Well, this is what Doctor Who is. We can go anywhere, and I like that they do that, and I like that they go so far into the future that
The
Earth is
ridiculous
over.
can be acceptable, I guess.
yeah.
Like the iPod.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Well, real quick though, but so do they all live on that space station?
No.
No.
So they
The space
That's
station is
what I-
just a viewing platform.
yeah.
They paid a lot of money to come and watch Earth blow up.
okay.
So this is like the elite. Sort
Okay,
of.
so it's not
Yeah, they're
part
really rich.
of a space station that they already live on.
Correct. Yeah.
The Bloompa Loompas and the steward might
They
live
Yes.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
there.
all the blue people except for the Moxabel Hoon, because he's a different. Well, the Moxabel Hoon is a different shade of blue, so he's not part of the working class, the blue collar class.
Isn't
Anyway, while this is all going on with the Doctor and Rose with the phone call, gifts are brought out by the repeated meme and are revealed to contain robotic spiders that immediately work at disassembling functions on Platform 1. The steward of Platform 1 recognizes something is wrong, but is killed when the spiders cause the solar filter of his room to lower and expose him directly to the powerful solar radiation.
But he's the second one who died. Because the first
Yeah,
one
the
was
plumber was the first one.
Ruffalo.
I said the
yeah.
plumber was this episode's Clive,
Right.
Yes, so
where you
let's-
get to
poor
know them
Clive.
and you like them, and then you feel really bad.
So let's go back to her, because I have a note about
That's
her.
when Rose she needs a moment to compose herself.
She walks around.
She walks around. She goes to a window and she meets,
Ruffalo is her name,
and
or Raffalo.
that's a great scene.
Yeah.
That's just a nice little. Nothing much happens. It's just character, and you just see that Rose is compassionate and just likes people and isn't above anything.
Well, I like that little bit because it makes normal conversation, chit chat, special in this case, because she has to give Ruffalo permission to talk to her and to respond.
And she's so nice and kind to her. Like
Mhm.
it's definitely a change of vibe to everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But with that whole thing of her giving permission, I feel like it gives you the beginning of what the overall theme of this episode is, which is I feel a bit of racism, like because
Classism.
or even racism,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because what's her name, the face thing, Cassandra.
Cassandra.
She talks about how I'm the only pure human. Everyone else has
mongrels,
mixed.
she said?
Mongrels.
It's
Yeah.
mongrels. So
Yeah, definitely. I also like the fact that in my research for this episode, I found out that was an extra scene. It wasn't in the
Which?
original
That
Ruffalo.
conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there was more scenes with Cassandra, but they were too expensive. So they cut some of Cassandra's scenes, and the episode went short.
Oh wow.
So Davies wrote that specific scene. If you think about it, you could take that scene out,
And we wouldn't miss
and
it.
you wouldn't miss
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it's just such a great character scene. I'm so glad it
it
went
just
in.
starts the spiders being bad early.
Yeah, well, it also grounds Rose.
Yes.
Rose is completely freaking out, but then she meets somebody that she can talk to that's ordinary. I think Rose likes that she's ordinary, just like Rose is.
Yeah.
And Rose kind of is like, okay, I can relate to something here.
But I think she was more emotionally reacting, being overwhelmed before. But with this conversation, even the simple thing, well, what planet are you from? Because she's trying to go for basic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not a planet.
It's not a planet.
a whole litany of things that she's like, is something so simple is still so foreign and alien.
Yes.
But it's more conceptually for her going, this really is fish out of water. I don't know what's going on.
Well, it kind of grounded her. It like brought her down to human level.
And then she also talks about, I just went in a box with a stranger.
Yes.
I mean, that whole
Yeah, and she's
conversation.
starting to
She's
realize,
understand.
what the hell did I just
What
do?
did she do? Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And then,
Something
but
else
the other thing too is when before
before the
like
steward?
Rose leaves the party,
Yes.
and then the doctor leaves later. But that's also the beginning where Jabe scans him,
Yeah.
and then we start a little overarching mystery of the machine.
What's going on?
At first, doesn't know what race he is,
Yeah.
and then she doesn't believe it,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're kind of thinking, well, what are you talking about? He's a Time Lord.
We all know.
What's the big deal?
Yeah.
It creates
there
a
are
mystery
Time
within
Lords,
that there is something
but
up
now
with
there's
it.
something where it's like, the machine, and she doesn't say Time Lord yet,
Not yet.
but she's like, no, it's impossible. It can't be that. So you're kind of wondering,
What's impossible?
what's going on?
Yeah. Okay. From here, after the steward dies, the doctor goes to investigate with the help of Jabe, and discovers the steward's death, and the spiders. Rose attempts to learn more from Lady Cassandra, but only gets more upset over Cassandra's arrogance and walks away. Later, Rose meets some members of the meme who knock her unconscious and drag her away. She is locked in a room where the solar filter is about to drop, and the doctor manages to get the filter back up but cannot get her out.
And I remember watching this earlier. I don't know if I gave it much, like a second thought. Like, well, why they knock her out? Like when you're watching television, you just kind of think, well, they knocked out the bad guys knocked out the good guy, and then we find out they're bad guys. But in watching this just the other day, I realized, oh, she just had an argument with Cassandra and revealed herself. So she's now a
Cassandra's
troublemaker.
like she has to die.
Right. So if you know the end of the episode,
You know why they're doing
then
that.
you know why they're doing it. So it gives it another experience in watching it more than once, because it seems like very rudimentary to have the scary looking people knock out the pretty girl, but there's more to it, and I just caught that this time around.
There's also a really good scene with Rose and the doctor in the observation thing where Rose is saying, just tell me who you are.
Yeah, and he
Oh,
gets
yeah.
really
He gets
angry at
upset.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he says, I'm
This
am
is
who
me.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm right here. I'm right now. But that
He's definitely
carries
a raw
on, Frank,
nerve.
with what you said, with where she's starting to realize, what have I done? And so she's going to force it with the doctor and say, who are you? She's going to figure out who he is.
Well, she felt violated about the whole. She can understand why is everybody speaking English, and he's like, "Oh, they planted something in your brain from the
TARDIS.
And she's like, I didn't give you permission.
So
Yeah.
she's still starting to process it all in the head, going really angry. They both fight each other. It seemed to me that she understood everything's shut down now. I can't talk to him, can't talk to anybody. So she starts a simple conversation about the phone. Well, I'm not going to get any service here, which brings him out of his own little bit. So
Yeah.
that goes back to, talking to Jackie. But she starts that. It's like, which I really liked. It's like showing, she can put that aside and go, okay, we need to make a conversation if anything's going to go
That's
further.
kind of her thing, like she did with the plumber. She's
Right.
always talking to people. And the next episode, we'll get to. Also, she did that there as well.
Yeah, so but the doctor giving her the phone, that's her touch of home. That's
Right.
that's her link to home, where it's like,
Right.
okay, I'm doing all this, but I can talk to my mom. From my point of view, my mom is fine, and now I can kind of
Move
get a
on.
better handle of what's going on around
Right.
me.
And also too, with him being in this dark place that we're not really, we're starting to get glimpses of, it hooks into the mystery of when she scanned him and it didn't know what he was, and it's just sort of building this mystery that arcs through the whole season.
Yeah, for some reason, he's not saying he's a Time Lord. He's not saying he's from Gallifrey.
Right.
He doesn't want to talk about
Right,
it.
and it's just,
Just what is going
it's good
on
writing
there.
because it keeps a mystery alive and the
Yes.
person watching. And a lot of times too, there's a lot of stuff coming out of viewer. So they're reintroducing the show. I feel like if they did just say everything was up front, if they put everything up front, it would have been overload and people wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. But when you create those little mysteries, people are like, well, what are they talking about? Even if you don't, how many times you stay up at 2 in the morning and in a movie you don't watch because well, I want to know what happens. So, and it's sort of like that. I feel like if someone's like, well, these people look ridiculous, but I want to know what happens.
But the doctor needs something to do. So when he fixed the jiggery pokery with her phone,
Right.
and then the whole thing shuttered, the whole station shuttered, he woke up.
Right. And he's just like,
and he's like,
fantastic.
okay, finally, something to
This is it.
investigate, something to do.
I'm here for a purpose.
Which also made me think that the way he walked in and he had seen the 5 billion years and was talking about the world being destroyed, the earth being destroyed, I was like, has he been there before?
Been to that time?
That time. it made me think, like, had he been to
Right.
that time,
Or is-
had he known what was going on, and then something different happened this time. And
Or is it just
was
like
kind
we know
of-
about 1776?
yeah.
Does he know about that end of the world thing? If we went
Yeah.
back and John, whoever, wasn't there.
Well, I mean, he
just not
does
been
know.
there before, but know
Right.
about it.
Yeah, he does know. Like we know about the Titanic.
Right, but he may have watched it a number of times in his
Mm-hmm.
lifetime already.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to point it out that the whole thing with Rose being able to understand alien language is a concept that was first introduced in the Fourth Doctor's episodes, the Mask of Mandragora, and it was described as a Time Lord gift he shares with his companions.
That was Sarah Jane, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And then the whole thing of the Doctor being able to supercharge communication devices first appeared in the Three Doctors special. I don't remember.
Did he do that here?
guys seen
Where
that?
did he do that?
No, the Three Doctors
the-
special. This is old stuff.
He's talking about the jiggery pokery of the
With the
phone.
phone?
Oh,
Talk
just
to
the
Jackie.
Jiggery Pokery, not super.
Because he does that, the second Doctor in the Three Doctors special modifies the Brigadier's radio telephone and allow him to contact his men through antimatter.
of course.
I wanted to point that
As
out.
you do.
That's how I would do
Yeah.
it.
So the Doctor gets a captured spider, and he determines that the memes are responsible. The memes turn out to be empty shells, and the real controller is revealed to be the Lady Cassandra.
But even their name, the repetitive meme, it means more now with the internet age. But
I know, maybe this
The meme is
episode-
just an idea,
yeah, repeated.
quoting the Doctor.
Cassandra admits to being the saboteur. Her plan was to use the deaths of the assembled elite to generate profit from their companies to finance her operations. Cassandra teleports to her ship as the spiders bring down the shielding on the entire station, and the gravity satellites are turned off. The direct radiation causes the solar filters to strain and crack, killing several of the guests from the intense radiation exposure and once again threatening Rose. The Doctor and Jabe travel to the bowels of Platform 1 to restore the automated shields.
Okay. I got to interrupt
Yes.
because they go down
so they
to
go down
restore
to
this. It's the Galaxy Quest moment. Who
Yeah.
would build this? Why did they write this? I have a bridge.
Yeah.
I'm going to put propellers in front of it.
For the AC or something.
You can have propellers for AC. That's fine. Why do you put them?
could have
in
raised
the-
him 6 feet.
And did you also notice that it almost looked like there was like dried blood on every one of the propellers, where the little blue guys have tried to go through and didn't make it. It's Galaxy Quest. Who would write this?
But also they're going again to the bowels of something.
They go to the bowels to stop a fiery sensation.
I know.
Well, then in Rose, they went to the basement, and then on the Westminster Bridge, they went into the bowels of that thing. So I think there's a theme here.
But it was silly to have it all the way at the other side. The only thing all the way on the other
Yes.
side.
The reset button is over there.
Across two big
Yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
And it's a nice big
Yeah,
lever, too, not a control panel.
Yeah.
But once.
I mean, but again, the acting pulls it off
Yeah.
because Jabe is really good in that scene where she sacrifices herself.
Yes.
And the Doctor, he handles crossing the bridge, very Time Lordy.
Well, the last one that's spinning really fast to try and cool down the station, he then centers himself, But
Right.
to me, it kind of flashed back to Rose when he's talking about he feels the Earth spinning and going around the galaxy the whole time.
Oh, I
So
like
he
that.
was feeling the
Yeah.
station and the blades moving so he can move past it.
Or you can move in sync with it so that not to get killed.
Yeah,
right.
but they could.
But
Yeah.
to me,
Yes.
it wasn't just that Zen moment. It was based in Rose of talking about feeling the whole planet spinning.
I agree.
He
Yeah, I
is
agree.
tied
like,
to something.
It bridges
with
that statement.
Right.
They could have written a better reason. for
I
it to
agree.
be-
I agree.
And if he was able to do that at the end without her pulling down the lever, why did she have to sacrifice herself to pull down the lever? If he could feel everything spinning, just
Right.
walk.
She-
The way he goes
Oh, I
past
see.
that
Right.
I
very
agree with
last
you,
one,
Yeah. Well, it was
it's like
We're taking more time.
she's no longer holding down the lever. Things aren't moving slowly, and
He
he's still
already
able
took
to do it.
forever.
And so that just always bugged me because I liked that character.
Yeah, agreed.
And I felt like her death was cheapened. Thank you. Was cheapened when he didn't make it all the way across before she died, and then he was able to go past the
I
last
think
fan without her.
The odds of being able to do that, he wouldn't have attempted it though. But
But I would have liked that he had gotten to the thing to press the reset
And then
and then
see
turned
her.
back and
Yeah.
saw her.
Or at least said, well, I guess I could have done that the whole time.
No, I agree. Not the best scene.
No, and then
Who.
I think that walking through there was just something that they gave the children. Because
Yes.
when
Right.
you're a kid, you're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I have to walk through this obstacle course.
Yeah, it's
And I have
definitely
to
the kid
make it.
moment.
Yeah.
It's the kid moment.
It's the
video
burping.
game.
It's the burping trash can.
Yes.
Yeah. Kids
Right,
will
but
love
I
it.
do. But I think if he would have made it to the end, not realizing that she was being, catching on fire, and then turned around after he got there, I think that could have been more impactful of him realizing what people would do for the doctor and for the greater good.
And why did he
What was in
bake
there?
up? I mean, I know she was wood and caught on fire before him,
she's
but
kindling. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah.
And then he's mostly water.
Because he has
That's
two hearts
true.
pumping.
Yeah, so is he more than 70% water than we are?
I guess.
But before we move away from Jade,
Yeah.
because now she's Ash,
Mhm.
the scene between her and the doctor earlier,
Yes.
when they're exploring the ship and they go to that room for the first time, that's a really
Oh, yeah.
well done scene
Yeah,
where she
yeah.
says,
I know.
I know about what happened. I know about your people, and I'm sorry. And the doctor full on cries.
Yeah. He
He
sheds,
is
he
tears
sheds a
ro-
tear,
rolling
yeah.
down his face. And still we're going, what happened?
And I also think that's beautifully acted by
Yes.
Eccleston
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's so intense, but you still see the pain.
And it's funny, too, how opposite of Tennant, where Tennant's telling everybody everything, this doctor's telling everybody nothing,
And
but
still showing
like
everything.
saying so much in certain places and things.
Oh yeah, I
So-
like him. Like having that more of that I'm in pain and I need rescuing kind of feeling instead of me being the savior all the time with
Yeah.
Tenet.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Oh, we're going to have discussions when we get to Tenet.
So the doctor saves the day, or do you have something else?
I had something about some stuff earlier, but let's get
Okay.
through the.
The doctor then returns to the remaining guests and Rose, who is now free of the observation room. Using the device he finds in the room, the doctor reverses Cassandra's teleport and brings her back onto the station. In the elevated temperature and without moisturizing, Cassandra begins to dry and crack. She begs for mercy from the doctor, but he refuses to listen, and Cassandra ruptures.
Just let her die. He's standing there, and he
Does-
really
Well, he's
wanted her
angry
gone.
about-
Did Rose say to help her?
Help her, yeah.
She says.
But
to
he
help
can't,
her.
he's angry about Jade, just like he liked Jade as much as I did. And
Well, it's also everything has its
revenge.
time.
Yeah, and he's coming off of Jade's death. So
yeah,
he's
well, I
like-
saw it as revenge
Yeah,
right.
for Jade, but
And I just think, he's still mentally messed up with the whole war, and he's like, he changes his idea of what's life and what's valuable with life.
Mhm.
It's like Cassandra's not valuable. He just puts a judgment on it. No, poof, watches her
Yeah.
go, and it's like fine with him
Also, if she is the last human, genocide.
again.
Again, another repeated
We'll get there.
meme theme. So the doctor refuses to listen, and Cassandra ruptures, and I actually think it looks very effective the way they do it.
Yeah, it was good.
Rose notes that with all the events that have occurred, no one has witnessed the actual destruction of Earth. The doctor returns Rose to her present time and explains to her that he is the last of the Time Lords, and this is the first time we hear that from him. And that his planet of Gallifrey was destroyed in the wake of a great war. The episode closes with Rose and the doctor going off to get chips on a sunny London afternoon. And thank you for Wikipedia for this synopsis.
I didn't think of that before. That I'm surprised because if it was the next Doctor, he would have had more sympathy for the last of someone.
Yeah.
I
I could see that.
Whereas this,
Well, I don't know. I think
I mean,
Cassandra thinks
she was
she's
a
the
murderer.
last.
but she might not be.
Yeah, I don't. The doctor still thinks humans are around,
Right.
Oh, right.
I mean,
but they're mongrels.
and he doesn't
Right.
care.
Right. Right.
Because
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
such
Okay.
things. So, yeah. But at the end when
So for you guys that have seen the older ones, are there more Gallifreyans before this new
Yes.
series?
Oh, yeah. There's
Yeah.
a whole council.
Yeah.
Planet's still there.
the Time Lords are
Headdresses
they
are
are
still-
isolationists, so you don't see them very much. So they have tons of rules of not messing with people's affairs unless they deem it worthy to mess in people's affairs. But there's billions of Gallifreyans, and there are other Time Lords and Time Ladies wandering the galaxy. But it's kind of rare to do what the Doctor did. The Doctor leaves and doesn't want to have anything really to do with the other Time Lords, and that's rare.
So wait, so there are Gallifreyans that are not Time Lords, like
No,
someone
they're
from
all Time.
Earth?
No, they're all-
The race is
Oh, okay.
Time Lords.
I didn't know.
But they're more like, let's just stay on Gallifrey rather than adventure out.
Right.
Yeah,
Because,
just because
um,
they hold so much power, because they know so much about time, that they know how much damage can be done. So they're very insulated.
Well, because his other than his first companion, which is his granddaughter, he has a Time Lord, Romana, with the Fourth Doctor. Tom Baker does so, and even she regenerates. Where
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah, she was one actress for one season and then
they change
regenerated and
into Richard Dawkinson's wife.
well, also Tom Baker's wife.
True.
They were married for a very
Yeah.
short time. So
I wanted to say earlier though that Cassandra mentions when she was back when she was a little boy.
yeah,
Right.
To me, I just took
didn't
that as they don't know the proper words for things. It's been so long.
I think
Or
no,
was
I
she
took it
actually
as
a boy?
it's so far in the future.
She had a sex change, like she's
Yeah.
had so much
Else
plastic
done.
surgery.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty funny.
And also being in the Arctic desert and the Los Angeles crevice.
Yeah.
It's like
This
this
is
is a
different-
long,
yeah.
long time from now, and
Well, she's over 700.
she's over about
No, she was 718.
I don't remember.
I thought she said it was like 1,000 years ago. Like
Yeah.
that's like
I
2000.
thought it was 1,000 or 2,000. I think it might
Yeah,
have been
2000. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just,
how long have you been alive? Which is another reason why the Doctor's like everything has its time, because she's been around a really long time.
And maybe she was a little boy, or maybe she's not even a she because there's no sex organs.
Yeah, but-
there's
well, but-
just a face and a brain.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a
we see
different-
later on.
Yeah,
that
but you see later on. You see
Spoilers.
her. Yeah, that's not a spoiler. You go because it's back in time. You see who
Right.
she was before that happened to her, and she was a woman.
Yeah, then
Yeah, you don't know.
All right.
I'm just saying.
Russell, call us because we want to know, was she born a boy and then just,
I guess I was a little more
Transitioned,
rudimentary
or-
about it and thought like, oh, she got her words wrong.
well, see, they got so much wrong from the time period.
Well, I mean,
The-
well,
which
yeah.
is the
Like
best
the guy-
thing in the episode,
Yeah.
which we didn't talk about.
well, pointing out the jukebox,
the iPod.
right. Yeah.
Which is a huge jukebox for those of you.
Or having Britney Spears as a classic song. Come on.
Toxic is awesome. I knew I was going to argue with this. It's a terrible song, and it works great.
It works great for this episode.
It works
yeah.
great in this episode. I hate that song, and I actually like it now because of that episode.
Do you guys know, does the BBC pay for music? Because they had a lot of really high profile
Yeah,
music
Tainted
in this
Love.
episode.
Yeah, Soft Cells,
Tainted
Love.
Love,
Oh, Tainted
Britney
Love, that's
Spears,
right.
and
Yeah.
I know that can be expensive in the US to license.
They still have to license it there.
I'm sure it's different, but
We've dealt with that.
They just take
Yeah.
jewels off the crown and
Yeah.
So they,
toss one over.
well, I also find it.
That's what their
Well, I find it
currency
funny that the Doctor actually dances to Soft Cell.
Yes.
is.
I wonder if they do it like they do here, where they have the money for an entire series or season, and they put a lot into this one episode
did do that.
with the special
Yeah, that could
effects
be
and
it.
with the music, and it's like,
They
okay,
did.
this one's going to be our
unique-
big one.
yeah.
Yeah. When I was
I love
researching it, that's exactly what they did.
Okay.
They really wanted to wow people with the effects, and they wanted to do it right.
And then people didn't watch the episode.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because it's low numbers.
Well, it dropped.
Three
off.
Oh, is that
million
number
less.
you said earlier low?
I think
Yeah,
it's not that they
7.3
didn't watch. I
million.
think it came back to a manageable level.
Yeah.
Because I think the pilot was huge.
Yeah, the pilot was huge.
And then there's the classic Earth, the way that they kept it.
Yeah.
Yes.
A vintage
I get it.
Earth.
Vintage
they
Earth.
say. I like that. They maintained it to a vintage. I also wanted to point out that the Face of Bo, the Mox of Balhoun, they in a conversation with the Face of Bo, the Mox of Balhoun mentions the Bad Wolf scenario.
Right.
Yeah, that's our first reference.
Yep.
Dun dun dun.
This is after the steward dies. They cut to a scene. So in the background, in case you're watching it trying to find it, is the Doctor and Rose come into
The observation
room, and they're just doing a pan shot, and it's just in the foreground. It's not really highlighted in the
No.
conversation, but
Just
you
this
can hear
passing. Yeah, you can hear it.
It's a Bad Wolf scenario.
And he refers to the psychic paper as slightly psychic paper. Is that?
Yeah, they don't say that
yeah.
again.
Is that from the last series or?
I don't know.
I don't know if the psychic paper
It
was
sounded
there
like a
before,
very
but
specific word
I don't-
choice.
I actually love the concept of the psychic paper because
Yeah.
it really it moves the story along so
Yeah.
quickly. It so easily sets the Doctor in whatever world he's in, and people accept him, which I think is one of the strengths of Doctor Who. We never have to too much deal with people not accepting
Yeah, well,
what he's doing.
that, and how the TARDIS interprets the languages.
Yeah.
And it's just that they make
Yeah.
enough rules where it makes up
works.
for the.
Yeah, so the psychic paper is a clever way to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I just was wondering what
Yeah,
they called it.
slightly.
It sounded
Yeah.
sounds stupid, but I was just wondering if it was something that was harken back to harken back to the other series. The old
No, I think it was
series.
new for this series.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I think it's
Maybe they were trying to be different, and then when they heard it, they're like, "Oh, we gotta change
no.
that."
That's something we'll have to find out. And then
Any other thoughts?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do like the end.
Okay.
Where this whole episode has been Rose trying to handle all this new stuff, looking for the ordinary, and at the end, the Doctor takes her back, and I think the Doctor is trying to make a point when they're out in the streets to say ordinary life is wonderful.
Yes. And
This is it. This is great. These are just people. They're going to work.
living their
They're
lives.
eating chips.
Yeah.
And this is what's great. And again, it comes from the pain of you'll get your turn.
I was shaking my head because I don't agree.
Where it's just the he's alone, but he sees that there's life, so it's okay. She's freaking out. She goes back home. Ordinary life is good, and kind of like it bonds them. I think they get bonded together. Where they're like, now they're kind of like together.
And I think it bonds us to the Doctor. Like, I think that was one of the appeals for the Doctors. I watched the episode and I feel good at the end about humanity, about myself, about being
Right.
ordinary.
Yeah, it's a
And
theme.
so, yeah, it's one of those.
Yes.
It's bonding Rose to the Doctor, but it's also bonding, I feel, the viewer.
Well, also she has to pay, and she says that he's a no good date or a cheap date or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm like, did they
And now Frank.
The Doctor never seemed to really like ordinary in any of the incarnations. It was like, they're going to back, and this is one episode further on. Well, that's on a Tuesday. Nothing ever happens on a Tuesday. We're not going to that one. We're going to somewhere where something happens. Just to
Sometimes.
I don't think it's the ordinary. I think this is life,
Boring.
and life is what
Extraordinary in the
is
ordinary.
He likes
special.
life. Yes.
It's
That's
not,
what I'm.
it's
Yes.
not ordinary. I don't know. I'm just having a
So we're saying kind of the same thing, just in different ways.
right.
That's so us.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess
It's
he doesn't call humans ordinary. He calls them extraordinary. He's always telling Rose and the
That's
other
true.
companions, "You're extraordinary. You're special. I don't know. What are some of the
I think
words?
he says special.
Yeah, brilliant. That's the one
Fantastic.
he goes. Yeah." And so, yeah, you're right. It's not the ordinary that the Doctor likes. It's extraordinary, and that's what makes you feel good. 'Cause you're like,
Right.
But I think he just likes life.
It's I guess the semantics of what you said. It's like,
Yeah,
that's not
okay.
something that would.
I
I
don't
don't
want
want to get the wrong impression of it.
I stand
guess.
corrected. That I can accept that because when the people are being introduced on the platform, he's got this gigantic smile on his face. He just loves seeing all these.
There's
different
a
things.
lot of that in this episode. I love seeing him, this
gleeful.
Doctor especially, like joyful and
Yes.
getting such a kick out of all these different things that happen.
Yeah.
Especially when it's juxtaposed with how dark he gets at different times too, and
Yes.
everything. So it makes
Again,
you.
Eccleston can really do that. He goes from really, really high and almost silly to crying. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all.
And then at the end, they just go for chips.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. It's wonderful.
Again, it's celebrating ordinary life, but not
Saying that it's
that
great.
it's yes.
Yeah.
I want to choose my words carefully, Frank.
But what I see in this one that I didn't really like as much was that it seemed excessively flirty, and
Yes.
even
They held hands a lot.
Yeah.
they held hands a lot. She rested her head on his shoulder, and they were okay with it. She called it a date,
And also when Jabe was flirting with the Doctor, and she like, oh, don't be out late.
yeah.
I mean, it really was kind of like they were pushing the whole.
Pushing the whole,
yeah.
and then he seemed very sexual in this episode too. Like he was attracted to Jade, not just as a human
Yeah.
being, but attracted to her. So it seemed more of like the Doctor is possibly a very sexual being as well. And yes, there could be a connection, like relationship wise, between Rose and the Doctor.
Well, I find
Which
it
is way new for the classic show.
Yeah.
Never,
yeah.
never hinted at. Nothing. Didn't matter.
I also think it's worth pointing out that when he gives her air as a gift, she's like, "There's more where that came from."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, you did say
How
that.
intimate.
Yeah.
Oh, how intimate. It was very very lot of sexual innuendo, like a lot of like he's a sexual being.
I think a lot of that too had to do with them trying to change it up for the new audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
bring a
we're
little more
looking back
modern.
on it right now, but
Yeah.
like that was 2005, and like I said, I didn't watch it until 2013, mostly because I just didn't get around to it, like I said, and everyone kept talking about it. But I remember thinking like surprised they were trying to bring it back, and then seeing Eccleston's outfit and being like, he's not wearing anything nutty. That's not Doctor Who. But I as I came to love it. Watching these, I keep coming in the mic. Watching these older episodes, I miss him a lot more.
True. Yes.
Any other thoughts? Would we use this episode as an introduction to a new Who viewer? Josh?
Probably not, unless you knew that viewer likes really silly looking stuff. But as an episode by itself, I think it is a good one to kind of give you runs the gamut of all the feels. So, but overall, like a blanket statement, no.
Good. Arlene?
I would not, because of course I felt that the whole thing of I felt like Rose, I wasn't ready for this. It is very silly, so no.
Kelsey?
I actually would. I think that it does a good job setting up a lot of people's stories. Does a lot of good exposition of stuff like the Time Lords, and again, it's Rose is being introduced to all this silliness, and I think it's good for the viewer to be like, hey, this show has, goes all over the universe. Here's all the different aliens you can encounter. Here's there's always going to be a crisis that the Doctor is going to solve. Some people are going to die. Some people, So I do. I think it's a good introductory.
Alburn?
I would say it's good for probably the Star Trek fans, the sci-fi fans who really like the costumes. Like I enjoy a good alien costume, but for somebody, who isn't into the whole science fiction alien costume bit, it would probably be a turn off.
Brian?
I would probably not use this episode. I like this episode, but unless I knew the audience really well, there's a specific type of person, the silly, who would probably really enjoy this episode. But on the whole, no.
Frank?
I'd say no, because I didn't like it all that much the first time I saw it. I like it a lot more now, with the exception of maybe kids. I have a nephew, and I think he might really like this. This might be a
Why
long-
didn't we show this
I
one?
don't know. I didn't think about it until just now, going,
A lot of
that
people
would probably be
die.
a really
How old is your
good
nephew?
10.
10.
He'll be fine.
I think for that age, I think it could be a good starting
for a
episode.
kid, it would be better.
I probably would not recommend it, so I think it's a consensus that we won't recommend this episode to a new Who viewer. One more thing that I wanted to point out is that the valet ticket that he's given for the TARDIS, when the blue man has it, you can't read it, but once it goes into the Doctor's hand, you can read it, and then.
I did notice you could read it, but I didn't notice that there was
Yeah.
a difference between then and
I went back and I freeze framed it, and I'm like, no, it's not upside down. I just
And
can't read
the
it.
panels.
Yeah, the
on
panels changed
Platform
too.
1 have the same thing. And there have been times I've been trying to figure out what they say because the font is
Yeah.
You can
crazy.
You can kind of read most.
kind of, yeah.
You need to
I
freeze
think
frame
it
it
says
more.
denied at one point, but there are some words I'm still trying to figure out what they say.
Access tonight.
Yeah, because that font is just so funny. And
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? I think that's it, and we'll see you guys next time when the future becomes the present.
I was waiting for that one all week.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew. Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady. You can find his work at theuniverseexplodes.com.
You can also find this show on several places. Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All of our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com, and you can leave comments there or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who, the longest-running sci-fi show in history, and especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer, and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.